Catastrophic flooding in the Midwest leaves, and experts say it could get worse. We'll talk with a Mississippi River forecaster to see what we can expect as those waters come our way.
And the Texas chemical plant fire intensifies. Local officials are now concerned about the air quality.
Plus, we'll take you live to one of New Orleans' most beautiful St. Joseph's Day altars. All these stories and more on today's edition of PAC News.
Good afternoon, I'm Kellie Sanchez.
And I'm John Casey. There are more than 130 emergency declarations for Nebraska's cities and counties. 4 people are now dead after the devastating flooding happening in the Midwest. The Nebraska Emergency Management Agency says this flood has already cost the state more than $205 million. This is affecting millions of people. It may have been the worst flooding in the state's history. All that water is now moving south and will end up in the Mississippi along our borders. We go live now to the Lower Mississippi Forecast Center where hydrologist Jeffrey Grashel is standing by. Jeffrey, what can we expect?
Well, John, we've had a lot of flooding up in the upper portions of the basin, and particularly in the Missouri and the Mississippi Valley areas and stuff. That water is going to probably take a month before it gets down towards the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area. Fortunately, though, we haven't had a lot of flooding further eastward over in the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. And so that combination of waters that come from the Ohio, the Tennessee River, the Cumberland River, along with the Mississippi and Missouri really make up the water that we have in the lower part of the river. So just the flooding alone that we have in Nebraska and Iowa just isn't going to be enough to be able to turn the river around on the lower part of the Mississippi River. So the capacity that we have on the lower part of the Mississippi River is much larger than what you see in areas up in the upper part of Missouri and the locations that you're seeing a lot of flooding in the states of Nebraska and the states of Iowa. So right now what we're seeing, without any more additional rainfall over the next several weeks here, right now we don't anticipate that flooding that we're seeing in Nebraska and Iowa will turn the river around and cause us to go any higher than what current conditions that we have on the lower Mississippi River. So what we're anticipating right now over the next several weeks is probably just very high river levels, but just continue very slow falls over the next several weeks.
So you're saying that New Orleans should be just A-OK, correct?
Yeah, well, New Orleans, we still got very high, river levels and stuff. So what we'll have to do is the next couple of months, really, we'll have to watch rainfall patterns in the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, also in the Missouri Valley as well, to see if we can continue. We're going to have high river levels no matter what. They're going to remain high for the next month or two in the New Orleans area and Baton Rouge area as well. But we should see slow recessions or slow falls here over the next several weeks. And if we don't get any additional rainfall upstream in the Missouri Valley, Mississippi Valley, or Ohio Valley, we'll continue to see those falls. But we're still at very high levels, so we're still going to have to be very cautious and watch things very closely in the coming weeks to make sure that we don't get additional rainfall that will cause problems.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining us today.
All righty. Thank you, John.
A gigantic chemical plant fire in Texas is sparking concern as environmental officials monitor the air quality in the Houston area. Reed Binion has the latest.
We continue to take precautions to further reduce the risk of explosion.
The blaze burning through giant storage tanks of fuel and other highly flammable substances at the Intercontinental Terminals Company facility in Deer Park, Texas, has cast a massive, dark, and ominous cloud that is now looming over the city of Houston. It's what travelers flying into the city were first greeted with, and officials expect it could take days to put the fire out, saying it could burn into Wednesday.
According to the air quality, all detections recorded by CTAH were below levels that would represent a health concern.
The company is racing against time, trying to empty a tank holding a highly flammable liquid called naphtha.
We're still pumping that out. We've moved about 10,000 barrels out of that tank. Yeah, those are 80,000 barrel tanks.
They say the blaze is contained, but only for now, as the fire continues to rage on, burning through fuel tank by tank. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Emergency responders continue to work with foam and water to control and prevent the fire from spreading.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg has released a public statement today saying he supports international investigations in the crash of the Model 737 airplane last week.
We're united with our airline customers, international regulators, and government authorities in our efforts to support the most recent investigation, understand the facts of what happened, and help prevent future tragedies.
Upon recovery of the plane's black box, investigators noticed similarities between the latest crash and the crash of the different 737 last year. The automatic flight control feature that controlled the stabilization of the plane malfunctioned and caused the plane to dive. Data from the box showed the pilots fought to level the plane before the crash. And to take aspirin or to not take aspirin, that's the question many people have when it comes to their heart health. Meredith Wood takes on this age-old question in today's Health Minute.
An aspirin a day has long been held as sage advice when it comes to preventing or staving off a heart attack or stroke. But according to new guidelines by the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association, the benefits may not outweigh the risks for older adults without a history of heart disease. For those adults, the study's author says a healthy lifestyle, coupled with getting blood pressure and cholesterol under control, are the best preventatives. A daily low-dose aspirin can increase the risk of internal bleeding and early death. One of the study's co-chairs says daily aspirin regimens can benefit older adults with a history of heart disease who have trouble lowering their cholesterol. As always, there isn't a one-size-fits-all rule. Every patient should work with their doctor to determine the right prevention plan for them. For today's Health Minute, I'm Meredith Wood.
With flu season coming to an end, the virus remains widespread in Louisiana. Reporter Leah Banks tells us how we can prevent the spread of the virus.
With flu activity still high in Louisiana, college students like Jared Richards are still feeling the aches and pains even after the illness. But once the virus has passed, there are some ways to prevent the flu from coming back to bite.
The most important thing is good hand washing. And if you do think that you possibly have the flu, wear a mask, cover your mouth when you're coughing. But most importantly, good hand washing it is by contact.
And with something as small as washing hands, we can prevent the flu and get back to our regular routines.
Most college students who get the flu have not gotten their flu shot. If you are sick with the virus, limit your contact with your friends. Cover your nose and mouth when you sneeze or cough, and clean objects that may be contaminated with germs. To clear up a common myth, you cannot get the flu from the flu shot because there is no live virus in the vaccine.
As New Zealanders continue to mourn the 50 victims of the mass shooting this past weekend, country officials are working towards gun reform policy. The Prime Minister says that the shooting has exposed a range of weaknesses in New Zealand's gun laws. According to New Zealand police data, virtually everyone who applies for a gun license gets it, making powerful firearms available to them.
Part of ensuring the safety of New Zealanders must include a frank examination of our gun laws. As I've already said, Mr. Speaker, our gun laws will change.
The focus of the gun law change would be semi-automatic weapons, and it would provide mandatory gun registration.
A suspect in the deadly shooting in the Netherlands is now in custody, but a motive is still unclear. Reporter Erin McLaughlin tells us more.
Authorities say they've arrested the key suspect in Monday's attack, but they've yet to establish a motive. They've yet to rule out the possibility that what happened here at 10:45 in the morning on board that busy tram was the product of terror, but also have yet to rule out the possibility that this was some sort of family dispute, as suggested by an eyewitness that we spoke to earlier in the day, who was on board the tram at the time of the horrific shooting, describes the shooter opening fire, seeming to target a woman on board the tram and anyone who tried to help her. It's an eyewitness account such as that authorities no doubt are going to be going over very carefully. The suspect, 37-year-old Gokman Tanis, was arrested 800 meters away from where the tram attack took place. Authorities say they've made one other arrest, although have yet to link that arrest to the attack itself. They've yet to also release the identities of the victims. 3 people killed In total, 5 injured, 3 critically injured. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte saying that the Netherlands mourns the lives lost on that Monday attack, and that Tuesday morning the flags will be flying here at half-staff. Erin McLaughlin, CNN, Utrecht, the Netherlands.
According to data released this month from the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, Americans are not shying away from cosmetic surgery. That data shows that nearly 250,000 of cosmetic procedures were performed in 2018 than the year before, with Botox remaining the most performed minimally invasive procedure. But according to one local dermatologist, Botox may have some new competition.
Our new drug that's on the market, the brand name is Jeuveau, but the chemical name is probotulinum toxin A. It is coming out as a competitor of Botox. I was one of the sub-investigators, meaning that I evaluated patients as well as injected them and then evaluated the outcome of the injectable. Something that's a little different is how the company that owns it is going to market it. So while Botox and actually some of the other medicines that came after Botox, so brand name Dysport, brand name Xeomin, those are marketed both on the medical side, so meaning they can be used for medical reasons for insurance purposes, and then also for what they call aesthetic purposes, so like for beautification or reduction in wrinkles. This product is actually only going to be used for improvement in wrinkles.
Dr. Holcomb says the new drug may also be offered at a lower cost.
Local businesses are surprised by a sidewalk table tax. The city of New Orleans sent notice to local businesses that they are charging $350 per table on the sidewalk. Local business owners are not happy with it. According to the local business owner, not only the city is charging taxes, but also asking local businesses to remove the tables after 10 in the evening until 8 in the morning. Local business owners are asking their customers to speak up against the new tax implementation. Majority of the customers are on the side of local businesses.
A big part of enjoying the Oak Street community is being outside and seeing everyone walk by.
Especially given the state of sidewalks and streets in the city, doesn't seem like they have a leg to stand on to argue that they're providing a whole lot of service there.
The city has not announced the date of the enforcement. However, any local business without a permit will be fined up to $500 per table.
Coming up next, a sweet treat is for those kneeling at the St. Joseph's altar and changing friends on Lent. Later on, we'll have your forecast as well as your favorite teams which stand in March Madness.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be blood. Next Thursday?
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Today is St. Joseph's Day, and many altars are set up around the city. Reporters India Yarborough and Kaitlin Cleveland are live at one of the altars now.
That's right, John. I'm here live at St. Francis Xavier Church on Metairie Road, where, as you can see behind me, they have an elaborate altar set up. I've been told there are 20,000 cookies on this altar, and we've seen lots of people come through to snap photos. I'm here with Rick Redman, who is one of the people in charge of actually putting this altar together. Rick, what can you tell me about the turnout today and what this altar means to the church?
Well, today's been a terrific turnout. We expect to do almost 3,000 people walking through today. We'll feed over 1,000 people today, pasta Milanese, and it's free lunch. So if anybody's still out there watching, they can come get free lunch. We serve till around 2. What's wonderful about the altar for the church is it brings so many people together to work on the altar. Because as you can see from all the things on there, it takes dozens and dozens of people to do all of the work. Even just the cookies alone, we did 9 cookie workshops with 24 to 36 people at each one. And we made thousands and thousands of cookies. And then you have to go back and ice them when you finish. So it really is a giant amount of effort. But everyone loves doing it, and getting together and working on it really brings the community together.
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
And I'm also here today with PAC reporter Kaitlin Cleveland. Kaitlin, you actually had the opportunity to learn about some of the prep work that goes into making the cookies for one of these altars. What can you tell us about what you learned?
Yes, so I was able to see volunteers and students come together to make the Italian fig cookie, which is a staple item on the altar, and it truly is a labor of love to bring the altar to life.
Great, thank you.
Melt the butter, crack the eggs, pour in the flour, and stir until mixed. Or just the start to an old tradition. And that's just for the dough.
The St. Joseph Altar is a traditional Sicilian event. It all stems from a drought that occurred in the Middle Ages when they prayed to St. Joseph, who was a patron saint of Sicily, to send rain to them, and he did. He sent torrential rain, which filled all the rivers back up, filled all the lakes back up. Their fish came back, all their crops came back.
St. Joseph Feast Day is March 19th, and cookies are a main ingredient to the St. Joseph altar.
Okay, just like that. Go.
Volunteers met in St. Paul's School's cafeteria to help cut, fill, and roll. All of this, plus 20 pounds of fig filling, are mixed with a labor of love. Elaine Musso brought her Christmas cookie knowledge to help keep her heritage alive.
And it's just been a tradition, you know, for us. And this is the first year I'm helping out at St. Paul's because my grandson is here.
And students came to trade the cookies after they were made. Sophomore Aiden Ploche said it is his second year helping.
This seems like a fun activity, and I thought I'd like to help just because cookie making is easy and stuff, so I wanted to come over here and help with that. And
once the cookies are baked and cool, it's time to ice and decorate. These 1,500 fig cookies join a dozen other cookies and cakes on the altar after 3 months of preparations. And so, the Sicilians promised that on St. Joseph Feast Day every year, they would hold a feast and invite the poor and needy in his honor. Kaitlin, Cleveland, PAC News.
Well, that's all for us here at St. Francis Xavier. The church will be open until 5 p.m. today, so if you're looking to check it out, you've got until then. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, India. Some Catholics, though, are giving up Lent for Lent. That's according to a study conducted by the Christian research group Lifeway Research. Claire Mouton has more.
For Catholics, the Lenten season is about a time of self-reflection and getting closer to God, something Lee Rhea is determined to do.
Lent's the best time to make a sacrifice, and I felt like juicing was the best way to just start fresh and cleanse, just get your body back to being neutral.
According to a study done by Nashville-based research group Lifeway Research, Lee is one of the 24% of Catholics who still actively participate in Lent.
Well, I think the duration of Lent, it's 40 days, so people don't feel like they can keep up with a practice for more than 40, for that whole time period.
For Charlotte Preuss, Lent is a great way to make a positive change, no matter how big or small.
Now that I'm older, I kind of just use it as a time to say, what do I need to fix, right now? And like I said, for me right now, it's eating healthier and being more active. So that's why I gave up what I gave up.
I think it is a good practice, especially here in New Orleans, where we have this great celebration of Mardi Gras, and nobody does Mardi Gras like New Orleans. So there's a reason for that great celebration, is that then we go into this time of penance.
Although the number of people who practice Lent is dwindling, Preuss encourages others to make a change and commit themselves to something, whether you're religious or not.
I noticed recently that I've been eating a lot of frozen foods and just popping stuff in the microwave. So I'm not super religious, but I also saw this as an opportunity to really push myself to commit to something for a few months.
Claire Mouton, PAC News.
For more information on how you can realign yourself this Lenten season, visit religionfacts.com/Lent.
Up next, we'll let you know if you'll be bundling up or stripping down this week with our weather forecast.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference.
Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Guys, we're expecting some cool weather this week. It's going to be a little bit on the cold side today at about 58 degrees right now, but we are enjoying a pretty comfortable humidity percentage of about 33%. Now it's going to drop to about 48 degrees later tonight, but not before it hits around 65 later in the mid-afternoon. So you might want to pack a jacket, but besides that, we're expecting some pretty clear skies all day long. Tomorrow's not going to be too much different. We're going to see some similar temperatures. It's going to increase to about 68 degrees with a low of about 51, but we're still expecting to see those clear skies. We're also going to see a jump up to a humidity percentage of about 50%, but besides that, nothing too different. Throughout the week, we're going to see temperatures slowly climb to about the mid-70s by the weekend. Humidity is also expected to slowly increase throughout the week. It might feel a little bit muggy come early next week. Percentage is going to be about 75%, but we have a chance of rain over the weekend and some cloudy skies early next week, so it shouldn't be too hot. We should be pretty cooled off. All right, thanks. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. Coming up after the break, teams celebrate their March Madness seeds and how the Saints are filling a major hole in the offensive line, and much more.
Back to you, Lester.
Thanks, Taylor. And in our final story of the night,
The Maroon has been ranked as one of the top student newspapers in the nation by the Princeton Review.
And the Pelicans were able to squash their 6-game losing streak in dramatic fashion last night in Dallas. Julius Randle put up 11 points in the final 3 minutes of regulation, fueling a late Pelicans rally and eventually forcing overtime. The Pels were able to outscore the Mavericks 19-15 in overtime to come away with a 129-125 road win. Randle would go on to lead all scorers with 30 points and 11 rebounds. Elfrid Payton has made the most of his increased minutes, with Drew Holiday at point guard missing his 6th consecutive game. Last night, Payton finished with 19 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds, marking Payton's 5th consecutive triple-double. The Louisiana native became the 5th player in NBA history to secure a 5th straight triple-double. Anthony Davis also logged 21 minutes in the win and was extremely efficient, finishing with 20 points and 6 rebounds off 8 of 11 shooting. The Pelicans are now 31-42 on the season and will travel to Florida to face off with the Orlando Magic on Wednesday. And Loyola's women's basketball team had their season come to a close last week when the Wolfpack lost 89-84 to Our Lady of Lake University in the opening round of the NAIA Women's Basketball National Championship. Now, the men's basketball team will get their chance to make some postseason noise tomorrow night when they take on 3-seeded Missouri Baptist University. The men's team secured its first ever SSAC Conference Championship earlier this month, which gave them an automatic bid into the national tournament. The Wolfpack will enter the tournament as a 6th seed. Tip-off for tomorrow night's game is set for 8:20 p.m. and a watch party will be held on the 6th floor of the sports complex, and it will be free for everyone to attend. Drinks and snacks will be provided. And Saints fans were in for a little bit of surprise when Max Unger announced his retirement on Saturday afternoon from the NFL. The former center snapped the ball to Drew Brees for 4 seasons in New Orleans and decided to hang up after a 10-year career due to health issues. And it didn't take long for the team to find the replacement. One day later, the Saints signed former Minnesota Viking Nick Easton to a 4-year deal worth $24 million. Easton started 17 games along the offensive line for the Vikings and has experience playing at the center position. And Selection Sunday took place over the weekend, and 64 of the country's best college basketball teams were officially seeded for the big dance. Duke, Virginia, Gonzaga, and North Carolina all snagged 1 seeds in their respective regions. Brackets went live on Sunday, and millions of Americans are expected to fill out brackets over the course of the next few days. Billionaire Warren Buffett will continue to give away $1 million to the lucky person with a perfect bracket, but this year there is a catch. Buffett will be giving away $1 million to the Berkshire Hathaway employee who can correctly guess the final 16 teams in the tournament. Round 1 action will tip off on Thursday afternoon, and the LSU Tigers will make their first tournament appearance since 2006 as a 3 seed after finishing the season with a 26-7 record and winning the SEC regular season title. The Tigers will face off with 14-seeded Yale University. Tip-off is set for tomorrow at 12:40 p.m. and the game will be televised on True TV.
What would you buy with more than $1 million? We'll have one high bidder's answer to that question after the break.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
Because you said rude things about my work, I started to question my own voice.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of your negative comments online, I've almost quit doing the one thing that makes me happiest in life.
Because you shared something about me that was private, I felt embarrassed.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Because of you sharing your story with me, I feel comfortable sharing my own.
Because you were there when I was coming out, you helped me regain my confidence.
I'm still here today because of you.
Well, this auction is showing why you shouldn't ignore the birds on the street. One high bidder paid more than $1.4 million on a prized racing pigeon. Jeremy Roth tells us more.
A bidder in China just nabbed a prized Belgian racing pigeon at auction for $1.4 million, which I think we can all agree is a lot. Okay? Yeah, yeah, I can't pull that off. The bird, Armando, is considered the best long-distance racing pigeon of all time. That's according to Pippa, the website that organized the sale. The high price was a result of an hours-long bidding war between 2 parties. Pippa says Armando is the most expensive bird ever to be sold at auction. I mean, it makes sense. You know, if only pigeons were somehow easier to find. Maybe someday, but until then, better start saving. Hey, I did it!
And that's our news for now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kellie Sanchez.
And I'm John Casey.